Hey guys, what's up? GreenMachineSam back with another video, and today we're doing my 2023 Chicago Bears season schedule reaction and prediction video. I want to preference this by saying a lot can change in the next 3 months, of course, with rumors still flying around that the Bears are looking to add either a veteran pass rusher in free agency or go out and trade for somebody that a team no longer wants or needs. A name that has been passed around is Chase Young after the Commanders didn't pick up his fifth-year option, as well as guys like Frank Clark or even Yannick Ngakoue in free agency. So a lot can change, and a lot rides on both this pass rush and Justin Fields' shoulders. I think that those are the two biggest things going into this season, the two biggest question marks. I think everything else is pretty much set in stone. We have decent weapons. We have a rebuilt O-line that should play well as long as injuries aren't a major factor. And I think the linebacking core was improved. And once again, the defensive backs have to stay healthy. So let's get into things. The first game of the season kicks off at our place on September 10th, and we do get an afternoon game against the Green Bay Packers. With Jordan Love taking over the reins as the Green Bay Packers' new QB1, I think he should struggle. But then again, it's going to be a war of the two offenses. Which QB will play better, I think, will be a big factor. But I do have us picking up the win in our first game, and we start the season off 1-0. In week 2, we go down to Tampa Bay and take on the Buccaneers. Now, with guys like Baker Mayfield and John Wolford being added to the QB room, as well as Kyle Trask already being there, I don't think this team is particularly good. Their offensive line didn't really get improved. Hell, I think it got worse. Losing Shaq Mason to a trade and only drafting one guy in the top 4 rounds, I don't think really particularly helps. Especially with a team that already had such a bad run game and just downgraded at quarterback. And don't forget, this team is getting older. Their defense is quite old when you look at it on paper. And one thing that I said in one of my earlier videos is that this team is very top heavy. And what I mean by that is that they have very good talent at the top, but they don't have very much depth. So an injury could set this team off the rails, and with 4 months before we even see this team play, I think something could happen to one of their key pieces and ultimately destroy their season. I don't think they're going to be good to begin with, but I think we start the season off 2-0 and get our second win in Tampa. For the third game, we go to Kansas City. Now, this is where things get rough. If this offense isn't clicking almost immediately, we will definitely struggle in Kansas City, as it does get loud there, as well as they're just a very good team and very well-run team. I think Patrick Mahomes is going to have a field day with our pass rush not being all that particularly great, and our corners not really having a ton of great experience. I think we'll get our first loss of the season, and Patrick Mahomes will have a good game against us, as well as it being within Andy Reid's season. I don't think this game particularly fares well for us. The Broncos in week 4 are coming to our place, and this is a game I went back and forth on, right? Because Russell Wilson was so terrible last year. He was one of the worst ranked quarterbacks in the league, as well as the fact that it just seemed like nothing was going correct for this team. But they did bring in Sean Payton, and they did spend plenty of money on free agency. But was that enough? Honestly, I keep going back and forth, and I think I'm going to give myself the win here as well. I think we start off 2-0 at home and 3-1 in the first month. In week 5, we get our first primetime game on Thursday night, and it's a rematch of the Washington Commanders. We played them on Thursday night last year, and we played them on Thursday night again this year. Their defense is very formidable, and they have some pretty good weapons. But is Sam Howell really their guy? I don't think he's going to be all that great right out the gate. And I think we're going to get our 4th win of the season, starting off 4-1 in the first 5 weeks. Next up, we have the Vikings coming into our house in week 6, back on normal Sundays and at noon. And honestly, I think we're going to lose this game. I think we're going to be flying too high. I think the Vikings are going to come in, and we're just not going to have a great game against them. Now, I don't think they're a particularly great team at the moment, with losing some of their veteran help. But I think we do end up losing this game, and we drop to 4-2. In week 7, the Las Vegas Raiders come to our place. Now, it's going to be all about defense in this game. I think both teams have tremendous run games, and both have tremendous talent on the offensive side of the ball. It's really going to be about the defense. Both defense back rooms are not very great at the moment, and I could see a battle of which one can hold on longer to the other team's weapons. So I need to put in this. I think it's a close game, but I think we end up losing to the Raiders and go on a 2-game skid here. I think Josh Jacobs is going to have a tremendous time against this front seven of ours, with the defensive line not being particularly great on paper at the moment, and I think the Raiders are going to walk out of our house with a win. In Week 8, we go to Los Angeles to take on the Chargers. They also have a formidable pass rush, just like the Las Vegas Raiders, so it's going to be another question of whether or not this offensive line can hold up. I think we go on a 3-game losing streak here. I think the Chargers have too much star talent, and I don't think we're able to escape Los Angeles, and we drop to 4-4 on the season. We go on the road to New Orleans in Week 9, take on the Saints. I don't think Derek Carr or Jameis Winston's really going to right this ship, and once again, it's another team in the NFC South that's very top-heavy with talent. I don't think they have particularly great depth, and I don't think they're going to get much better. They just keep pushing the money back, and their team just doesn't get better. I think we end up taking this game, and we jump back up to 5-4. On a short week in Week 10, playing on a Thursday night primetime game against the Carolina Panthers, I think we end up taking the win. Bryce Young should be starting by then, and I think at this point in the season, we'll have a definition of whether or not Justin Fields is that dude. DJ Moore should have a revenge game if Justin Fields is playing well, and I think this team is just too good for the Carolina Panthers to handle. In Week 11, we go to Detroit to take on the Lions, and we end up losing this game. I think the Lions are going to be hungry for wins, and I think they're going to perform pretty well as long as injuries don't take them out. They should have Jameson Williams and some of their other players back by then, and I think they're just going to have the better of us in their own city. Their place should be jamming pretty hard with them playing well, and I just don't think we escape there with a win. In Week 12, we go to Minnesota to take on the Vikings, and I think we end up splitting this series. I think we get the better of the Minnesota Vikings in Week 12. I think some of their veteran pieces start to break down a little bit, and I think we just have a better game. I think Justin Fields has a great game against them. We always play Minnesota tight, and I think we continue to go on a very good run, and we jump to 7-5 on the season. Week 13, we have a bye, and then we're taking on the Detroit Lions once again, but this time in our house, and we end up winning this game. I think we just smother them in the run, especially now that it's December. Now, of course, there has been a question of whether or not we're actually any better in December, especially with the wind coming off that lake. And I think this is where we play smash mouth football and we go downhill and shove it in their throats. We jump to 8-6. No, 8-5. In the next week, we go to Cleveland to take on the Cleveland Browns. I think we end up losing this game. I think we get a little bit of ahead of ourselves, and we end up losing this game. I think Cleveland comes out and surprises us, especially with the Nick Chubb running and Myles Garrett just being a dominant force against our young tackles. I don't think this game is particularly fun for us, and we end up losing and going to 8-6. In Week 16, the Arizona Cardinals come to our place, and I think we end up getting the win here. Kyler Murray, I don't think is going to come back next season. I think the Arizona Cardinals are just going to say next year's a wash. Why bring him back for 8 games just for the chance of him getting re-injured, especially when they can secure the number 1 overall pick by letting guys just go out there and compete for jobs and see what they currently have on their roster. I think this is an easy game for us, and we're looking forward to the next 2 weeks. We then jump to 9-6 on the season. In Week 17, we take on the Atlanta Falcons. Now, can Desmond Ridder or Taylor Heineke beat us? They possibly could. But I think in our building, it's going to be a wintry fest, and I think it's going to be all about the run game. I think Justin Fields and our running backs are going to combine for a little bit more than whatever Tyler Algier and Bijan Robinson will give the Falcons. I think we end up jumping to 10-6 on the season, and honestly, looking to secure a higher playoff seed. We go into Green Bay looking for either the number 1 seed in our own division or just a higher playoff seed in general. In Week 18, it really comes down to 2 things against the Green Bay Packers in their own building. Are they fighting for a playoff spot? Do they want to stick it to us? Or have they rolled over and died and conceded, saying, hey, we want a higher draft pick at this point? It really just depends. But for now, I'm going to say they are fighting for a playoff spot. They end up beating us. They don't get into the playoffs, but we do. We end up finishing out the season at 10-7 and end up making the playoffs. When it's all said and done, I think we end up finishing out the season 10-7 and making the playoffs. I don't think it'll be for the division title, but we do end up making the playoffs, which is a positive thing. I think Justin Fields takes the necessary steps to become that quarterback that we all believe he can be, and I think the defense takes necessary steps to be a good defense once again. I think we see who on the roster is really worth anything and keeping them around. But with that being said, guys, if you guys enjoy this content or any other content here on my channel, I'd appreciate if you guys stick around, subscribe, like, comment, do all that fun stuff, and hit the notification bell to be notified anytime I post a video like this or any other content here on my channel. I'm going to be doing more draft content, more Bears-related content throughout the season. But I'll be back with more videos like this. But with that being said, I'm out. Peace.